Okay, is everybody that we need on board? Is Janice Michaels on board?
Mark? Mark?
Yes.
This is Joe. I may have to get on my telephone. My internet is saying it's unstable.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
I'm
We have some business to do before we get to your item. But you are first on the agenda. What we need to do is approve minutes and such. So that'll give you time. I will check when we start the hearing on your item to make sure that you're present. Okay, we'll call the hearing to order. Can we need to call the roll. I'll start. Mark Deach present. Tim
Crystal
Lenow,
Halverson, present.
Tim Lenow, present.
Harold?
Jerry Corn present.
Norby.
Okay. Everybody have time to read the minutes from the November 15th meeting and hearing, as well as the December 20th hearing.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve those minutes from this November 15th and December 20th?
So moved, Tim Lenow.
Is there a second?
Second, Jill Marine.
Jill Marine seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Next on the agenda for a public hearing, we have public comment, but this public comment does not pertain to the items, but it is an opportunity for general public to address the board if they have concerns from previous or other issue. I don't think we have any that I know of. The verification of the hearing notices, can you put that up on the screen? It's too high for me. Can you put it down a little bit?
Do you want to see the notice or do you want to see the dates published?
I need the publication of the hearing notice.
We just received those today, so I was not able to put that in the packet.
Oh, okay.
Dates are February 2nd and February 9th, 2022 for the Dunn County News.
Well, that would verify the public hearing notice, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's too high for me. Can you turn it, scroll it down a little bit? Nope, that's the other way. Go the other way.
It's right here, though.
I can't tell what everybody's screen looks like, so I only have it shared on my screen.
Can you read it then, Ann?
Would you like me to read the notice?
Yeah, the notice of the public hearing.
Yep, not a problem. All right. The Dunn County Board of Adjustment has scheduled a public hearing for Monday, February 21st at 5:30 p.m. The meeting will be held by teleconference. Special exception permit applicant Janice Michaels Agent Richard Michaels, location, parcel identification number 170-4423-1121-6120-0001, described as part of the Northwest 1/4, Northeast 1/4, Section 16, Township 31 North, Range 12 West, all within the town of Wilson, Dunn County, Wisconsin. Address E5916, 1370th Avenue, Ridgeland, Wisconsin, 54763. Request: the applicant, Janice Michaels, East 5916, 1370th Avenue, Ridgeland, Wisconsin, 54763, has made a special exception permit request to create a non-farm parcel within an exclusive agricultural district. Second request, appeal to staff decision. Applicant Mitchell Potter and Chase Potter, co-owners of the barn at Copper Creek. Location, parcel identification number 170-322-29-133-622-0001, described as part of the Northwest 1/4 of Northwest 1/4, except for the parcel described in Volume 8 of Certified Survey Maps on page 29 as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 1879, and except for lands described on a map of survey on file in the Dunn County Survey Office as S428, located in Section 36, Town 29 North, Range 13 West, all within the town of Sherman, Dunn County, Wisconsin. Address N7681, 500th Street, Menominee, Wisconsin, 54751. Request: the applicants Chase and Mitchell Potter, N7706, 500th Street, Menominee, Wisconsin, 54751, have made a request to appeal a decision made by the zoning administrator regarding the sale of food and alcohol at the location described above. This is the only opportunity to address the board regarding these requests, as such interested persons are invited to attend said hearing and be heard. Persons wishing to provide input during public comment may submit written comments via email, may register to speak at the public hearing by sending an email beforehand. Instructions for those wishing to speak during the hearing may be found on the Dunn County website. Persons wishing to listen to the open meeting should access the Dunn County YouTube channel. A video recording of the meeting will be available on the Dunn County YouTube channel at the link above for subsequent viewing. Persons needing assistance in accessing the meeting, please call 715-231-6505. Maps and supporting documents are on file and available for inspection at the Environmental Services Department, Planning and Zoning Division, located at 3001 US Highway 12 East, Suite 240, Menominee, Wisconsin, or on Dunn County's website.
Okay, we'll proceed to the public hearing for Janice Michaels. Is she with us now?
I don't believe Janice is attending this meeting.
Oh, who is having the internet trouble?
Um,
That was Jill Noreen.
That was,
Oh,
That was
I
me.
see. Okay,
sorry. And that's what I said, if I get cut off, I got it set up so I can go to my phone.
yep. Okay, Jill, we got it. Okay, let's proceed. Ann, do you have the documents and will you present it to the board?
yes. So this is the staff report for Janice Michaels. She is requesting a special exception permit to create a 1.9 acre non-farm parcel within the primary agriculture district. The base farm tract is 40 acres. Her proposed parcel size is 1.9. The current zoning is primary agriculture, Adjacent zoning is primary agriculture and general agriculture. She's creating this parcel for her existing home so that her brother may farm the remaining tillable land. The property is zoned primary agriculture, PA, which is an exclusive agriculture district. Currently, there is one farm residence owned by Ms. Michaels. Special note, the applicant has not received former approval from the town of Wilson. However, the town of Chairman has reviewed the request and expressed cursory approval. It has been placed on the town's agenda for March 10th, 2022. This is a preliminary certified survey map submitted by the applicant showing the lot to be created and an additional outlot that's 2.94 acres. This is an aerial photo of the property. You can see the property in the northwest corner. So the analysis, they'll have to meet these requirements. The ratio of non-farm residential acreage to farm acreage in the base farm tract will not exceed 1 to 20. There are 1.9 acres available in the BFT. There shall not be more than 2 non-farm residences, nor more than 5 residences in the BFT. If this request is approved, the BFT will have 1 non-farm residence. Neither the non-farm residence nor the parcel on which the non-farm residence is located will convert prime farmland or cropland other than a woodlot from agricultural use. Since this is an existing residence with minimum acreage, the proposed 1.9 acre parcel will not remove any prime farmland from future agricultural use. The request includes a certified survey map that contains 1 lot and 1 outlot. Staff recommends approval of this special exception permit and suggests adding the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall stay within the terms recited in their application and testimony. 2, the applicant shall obtain approval for this request from the town of Wilson and provide proof to the zoning administrator prior to the issuance of any county issued permits related to the development of this parcel. 3, a certified survey map will be completed by a professional surveyor approved by all necessary parties and recorded by the Register of Deeds. And that ends the staff report.
Okay, the board, we are familiar with this process and with the requirements. Scroll back up to the one you just had previous, and right there. Are there any questions regarding this special exception request? If there are none, is there a motion to approve with the conditions as presented? I do know for sure that we do need minutes from the town board approving that give approval to it before it will be effective. Was there somebody going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Tim Lenow, to approve. And with also have that conditioned on the approval of the town board.
Yeah, with the conditions as presented by the staff report.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yep. Is there a second?
I can second Crystal Halverson.
Crystal seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. That is approved, and we will move on. We read the verification that the hearing for that request is over. We'll move on to the appeal. And we already read the notice. For the process of the appeal, all of the material that is presented that is available to the public for this hearing will be attached to the minutes of this hearing. So, and of course, the stenographer will also have them all attached to her. You won't have to copy them, but we will attach to the transcript that material. The material that that Ann has available for this hearing. She has it, so you type up the what you usually type up, and she will attach the additional exhibits. I'm going to it'll be a similar to our standard hearings. I'm going to swear in the applicants. I'm going to ask Ann to present the reason for the appeal. I will ask the applicant of the appeal for the appeal to address the board and why they are appealing. We do have some of that information that's been presented to us. This will be to reaffirm that. And the board, we will have questions to that. I will then enter in the public comment. We have several letters, so we'll post them. Ann will post them, and we have, I believe, five, at least that I know of, five people that have asked to speak. Then I'll ask for a staff recommendation, and after that, I will give the applicant an opportunity if they have additional things to say pertaining to beyond what they gave as reasons after Ann they'll be the first one to speak. So I will give them an opportunity to speak after the staff recommendation. As we go through this again, the board, if you have questions, there will be opportunity to ask, and then when we're satisfied, when the board is satisfied, we will then I will close that part of the hearing, and we will go into our decision-making process. And at that time, only the board will be allowed to speak. So that's where we're going. So I need the first thing I want to do is the applicant who is speaking for Copper Creek. Are they available? Krista, are they available?
I don't know who that would be. I don't know if they're available.
It's nobody on my screen.
What is the individual's name?
It should be Chase Potter, maybe Mitchell Potter, maybe their attorney. I don't know, they requested this appeal. They're aware of the hearing.
Only seeing the people that requested to speak. A couple other individuals were in the waiting room, but they did leave. This person, I'm going to admit this person. I think this could possibly be the individual.
Okay, are we good then?
Do you represent Copper Creek?
Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Coyle. I do represent.
Okay,
Copper Creek.
there we found you. Yep, I got you on my screen now, so.
Yeah, I apologize for the delay. We were having technical challenges, as seems to be the rule of the day these days.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Adjustment, I'm joined this evening by the owners, proprietors of the barn at Copper Creek, Chase Potter and Mitchell Potter.
I'm gonna stop you just for a second.
Sure.
Because of the process, I need to swear you in.
Okay.
And for anybody, any one of the three of you that would like to address the board, I need to swear you in, and then you can speak freely as, and like I said, I don't know if you were here when I outlined how I was going to proceed.
I was, sir. I was, sir. I heard that.
Okay. So, but I want to swear in the applicant first. So I don't know if all three of you want to be sworn in, or if you're going to have one spokesperson, or it's up to you guys.
Why don't you swear me in, Mr. Chairman, and then I would suggest you swear in Chase Potter in the
Okay.
event that there are questions for him.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Then Chase, the same thing. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to, Ann's going to give a brief reason for the appeal. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. So it is my understanding that the appeal is against my determination as zoning administrator that the sale of alcohol is not allowed by the ordinance in the general agriculture zoning district, nor is it permitted through the existing special exception permit for agriculture entertainment. And the preparation, service, or sale of food events open to the public is not allowed under the special exception permit, nor is it allowed by the ordinance in the general agriculture zoning district. Since the Board of Adjustment functions like a court and must follow state laws and local zoning ordinances, the Board of Adjustment cannot change or ignore the zoning ordinance or state laws, but must apply the laws as written. It is up to the board to either affirm, reverse, vary, or modify the determination appealed in whole or in part, or to dismiss the appeal for lack of jurisdiction or prosecution.
Okay. You have to forgive me. I'm terrible with name. I remember Chase's name, but I don't remember the attorney's name.
It's Peter Coyle, sir.
Peter. Okay. Is it okay if I just call you Peter?
That would be super.
I'd like to have you address the board as far as the reason for the appeal, your view of the appeal, of the decision, and so forth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Adjustment and staff. Good evening to you all. My name is Peter Coyle, 8300 Norman Center Drive, Bloomington, Minnesota. And I'm counsel for the appellant this evening, the applicant. First of all, thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate it. I also want to acknowledge our respect for the role that staff plays in this process. While we clearly disagree with the interpretation that staff has provided, which is the source of this appeal, we nonetheless understand and respect the role that your staff plays It's unfortunate that there's been a change in the staff over the time that this project has been in process, because it seems that we're getting differing interpretations as to the county's code as a result of that, and I'll speak to that in just a moment. First of all, as the chair undoubtedly recalls, this project was first approved by the county in 2018, and the barn at Copper Creek opened for business consistent with its special exception permit in July of 2019. Notwithstanding the issues that are before the board this evening, notably the aspect of whether it's a restaurant use or an authorized alcohol sales premises, the barn has operated in full compliance with county, state, and township regulations. And we believe even as to the items that are challenged by staff, we are acting in full compliance with those permits as well. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll just offer these comments. As the staff member noted at the outset, we're bound by the rules of the county zoning ordinance, and so is the county. And one of the primary rules when it relates to a special exception permit is that the county cannot interpret or expand on terms that are included in an approved special exception permit. And in this instance, both items that are subject to the appeal, as noted very clearly by the communications we received from staff, require staff resorting to third-party resources to derive their interpretation that the operation of a quote restaurant or the sale of liquor at these premises is somehow not authorized by the current permits granted by the county dating back to August of 2018. And that's the first, I'll say, admission, if you will, of the county's responsibility in this case. It's resorting to third-party resources to derive an interpretation that's not spelled out by your code. That's point one. Point two, we have an explicit special exception permit that was approved by the county. Nowhere in that permit does it exclude or preclude the sale of alcohol at the premises. In fact, as the chair undoubtedly recalls, when the topic of alcohol came up at the time this permit was granted, it was noted correctly that the county doesn't have a role in regulating the sale of alcohol, and that that's the purview of Sherman Township, which in fact has granted a permit for the sale of alcohol in 2021 to the barn at Copper Creek. So those are important facts, and they are the controlling facts, I would say respectfully, Mr. Chairman. And notwithstanding staff's interpretations to the contrary, they're not supported by the code. They're not supported by the permit, including the modified ecotourism permit that was recently granted to the property, all of which allow for the sale of food and allow for the sale of alcohol at these premises. And so with that, I'll just take you through a couple of other points, Mr. Chairman. In an email from staff dated February 5 of 2021, it was confirmed that under the new ag tourism permit that was granted, that restaurant sales are allowed. And we're acting in accordance with that authorization and have always been. Secondarily, we received approval from the township for the liquor license that is the subject of dispute this evening. And as you know, the county doesn't play a role in that process. And while there's been a contention by some that the record of the August 2018 permit approval somehow limits the barn at Copper Creek from the sale of alcohol, there's absolutely nothing in that permit that states that. And moreover, this liquor license was approved nearly 3 years after the special exception permit, which contradicts any suggestion that there was an untoward motive, that there was concealment, or there was any active effort to discourage or to conceal from the county the true intentions of these applicants. They're simply trying to run a lawful business at a properly permitted establishment as approved by the county and by the township in accordance with state law. They have an approved commercial kitchen, which they are making available for their scheduled public and private food-based events. The sale of liquor is accessory to those scheduled events and in no way contradicts or contravenes the county's regulations nor the special exception permitted. State law makes it really clear, as interpreted by your courts, that the county can interpret or add new provisions to a special exception permit that are not based on the code. And as I've noted, and as is indicated by staff's communications with the applicants, she's having to resort to the dictionary to come up with definitions that support her conclusion. That's improper. It's not supported by the county's code. And I believe it would be found invalid if it were challenged some other day. Our hope this evening, Mr. Chairman, is to clarify these matters, to continue to operate our business. We hope to resume scheduled events at the barn at Copper Creek this summer. That's our intention. And we expect to do so in full compliance with our special exception permit, the Agritourism permit, and the liquor license that we were granted by Sherman Township. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to respond to questions, or if you have any for Mr. Potter as to the operations of the barn at Copper Creek, I'm sure he'd be happy to respond to those questions as well. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The board can offer questions to the Bonner Copper Creek. And I guess I have a question. In the initial request, Chase, you had in your request that alcohol would be free. I wouldn't be sold, it'd be free. And I know from my own experience, I've been to, haven't been to many, but I've been to 2 different venues, wedding venues, and one for my niece and actually one for my son. And at both of those, the wedding party supplied the drink, the alcohol, and the venue or the people there, if they had licensed bartender, tendered the drink. And I know for my son, they actually had to find their own licensed bartenders. I guess why was it presented to the board as that way instead of where you are now?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we feel that it was presented that way as a description of the way that we plan to operate at the time we were starting our business. We didn't know that whether it would be possible to get a liquor license. It was simply a descriptive explanation of the way that a barn venue without a liquor license could have alcohol. It wasn't intended to restrict ourselves or to say that we would never get a liquor license, but simply to explain the way that we would have alcohol legally at our events, even though at that time we didn't have a liquor license.
Mr. Chairman, it's worth noting, as I said at the outset, these folks opened for business in 2019, and they operated consistent with the statements, I'll say the intentions of the applicants at that time. In 2021, they could obtain a liquor license. That was within the purview of the township. And so they modified their business accordingly as authorized by the township.
Go ahead, Crystal.
Hello, Mr. Potter. Chase, I have another question for you. It seems like you have had a really successful run at your business since you first obtained the special exception in 2018. I remember back at that time that you didn't have running water and you were going to use porta potties. And I see that I think now you have bathrooms and water and a kitchen and all kinds of improvements. So I was wondering if you could just detail for us some of the big improvements that you made and how your business has evolved since 2018.
Yeah, thank you, Crystal. And yes, you're right. We have made a lot of additions, and this is something that I've thought about as we went through this process regarding our initial descriptive statements of our business, that there were several things in there, such as that we didn't have running water and therefore we would give away bottled water, and that we would have porta potties. These are elements of our descriptions of our business operations that were true and did remain true for our first 2 to 2.5 years of operation. But now we have put in a brand new well to service the property. It's been tested and we're in full compliance. So therefore, our guests are now able to drink from the tap. And we still provide bottled water for the guests that would like that. But this is one example that we feel it's safer and better. And another example, as you pointed out, is the restrooms. So instead of one porta potty for 75 people, we now have 9 different toilets for our maximum of 300 people. So we have more than twice the capacity. They're indoor restrooms. They're cleaner. They're safer. Now we're in full compliance with with all the state septic requirements as well. We're also handicap accessible. So we've, at the beginning, we didn't have handicap accessible bathrooms, but now our bathrooms are fully handicap accessible, wheelchair accessible for the entire facility. Kitchen, yeah, we've added the kitchen. So now caterers, instead of having to bring everything from offsite, we now have the ability that they're able to prep a certain amount on site. Again, we feel that although this doesn't fall within the original descriptions that we provided to the board, we feel that these modifications are simply the development of a business, which oftentimes happens organically, and that we feel that all these changes, including the liquor license, make our facility safer. So, before we got the liquor license, as the chairman pointed out, couples would have to bring in their own bartender, and we noticed that occasionally certain bartending services there might have been an issue with over serving, and we didn't feel comfortable with that. Now the bartenders work for us, and it is absolutely safer, and we have much more direct control over making sure that alcohol is served safely and responsibly. And that's actually one of the reasons that we pushed to get a liquor license, is so that we could operate this facility more safely for the public.
I want to speak a little bit, Chase, to the liquor license that you received. I'm a town chairman as well, and I had a request a couple of years ago in our township for somebody that wanted to have a winery, and I contacted the Wisconsin Towns Association to ask what I needed to do, and each municipality, I mean, my township, your township, whatever, has a quota for liquor license, and I don't know, I think, I don't recall precisely, but there was some date and time that the legislature put that quota in. It was whatever licenses were there at a certain date. And it just struck me on yours that it was an above quota license. That's how it's listed. And when I talked to the township or the Wisconsin Towns Association at that time, it was explained to me that there were, I'm going to say what would be regular alcohol license for that are within the quota, and then there were what I think she said the statute said were considered reserve license, which would be those above the quota, and there's a formula to determine that. And I was told at that time that the above quota license, the reserve license, had by state statute was $10,000 cost. I just happened to notice on yours it was 150, but it said above quota, so it just perked my interest. I don't know that it has bearing as far as allowing or not allowing what you're doing, but it's something I think you might want to check.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
sorry, no, I was just gonna let you finish.
no, I just thought that's something that should be reviewed by you to make sure that the township issued that license in accordance to the Wisconsin statute, unless something is changed with the statute. But that's a personal, I'm going to say a personal remembrance of what I was told by the Wisconsin Towns Association lawyer at that time.
Mr. Chairman, thanks for those comments. We'll certainly follow up on that comment or question, if you will. I would tell you, though, that as of this evening, we are not aware of any limitation, restriction, impropriety that relates to the township's issuance of the liquor license to the barn at Copper Creek. We believe we are acting in full compliance with the permit that was granted and that it was properly granted. But I also note that it's not the purview of the county this evening, respectfully.
No, it isn't. I just noticed, it just caught my eye. That's why I brought it up.
Thank you very much.
And the liquor license is that is a local municipality authorization that and the county doesn't have say in that, and nor does this board. At issue is from what I understand is whether the restaurant or the bar can serve the public outside of an event that would be, I'm going to say, considered normal in a egg entertainment zoning in the general agricultural zoning. The egg tourism permit is a separate permit, and it doesn't inform the egg entertainment permit or special exception, and vice versa. The egg entertainment doesn't inform the egg tourism. They are separate permits, and because they are because they do inform themselves, that's why in the zoning, I believe that's why in the zoning they are listed separate and they aren't combined. They have different aspects that are allowed and not allowed. And and that's the question I have. Like I said, I'm a town chairman also, and we have county zoning. The township works in conjunction when they adopt county zoning. They for development and such to directive development in these districts, in these zoning districts. The township themselves, I know for us, the township, when we adopted county zoning, and we actually just went through the maps again, I think in 2014 when the county comprehensive zoning was updated, because we had been zoned since '81, but we had to adopt the new zoning that was put forward in 2014. And the township at that time went through its we went through our township, and we designated the zoning districts for certain areas and such. And so it's but that's that issue. I don't think this hearing is that issue necessarily with the with the sale of alcohol at a wedding venue. That issue is whether the sale of alcohol and the sale of food to the general public, which would be, and I think we could all agree, would relegate it to a restaurant or a bar, a cash bar, and whether that is in compliance in a general agricultural zoning district. And normally that is not allowed without a rezone into a commercial venue. So that's the issue that that's the issue that the board has to decide. And I think I mean, that's the issue for me. Let me put it that way. And I think that's the issue that, from what I understand, that's the issue that the zoning administrator had. That is also the issue. I guess corporate counsel is with us too. That is also the issue that corporate counsel had in viewing this, having the sale of alcohol to a private party, a listed event, a wedding, some kind of gathering or something of that nature, for food and for sale, is an event that I think at the time when we issued this permit, and other board members, there are several here that were here at that time, most of us were, and view the special exception is synonymous, and some counties use conditional use. They both mean the same thing legally, and the conditional use permit or the special exception permit are the same. Some counties use conditional use. I think conditional use, as far as language, is more directed to the conditional use in an ag district, or it could, I'm sure there's special exceptions and other things too, but so that's that issue, as whether alcohol and food can be served to the public, like you would serve at a, well, say Applebee's or any other venue that does that, and those venues are required to be in a commercial district or some such thing, a limited commercial, or to be allowed. And that may seem serving to the public, serving to private. In some sense, it probably seems kind of like, if I can do it here, why can't I do it here? But in a general ag district, under the special exception, I think that there is some directed conditional uses. So that's that issue. And does the board? I would like to have the board with the applicant present. Do you have something to address or something you'd like to speak to? Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, my question is that where in the document from 2018 is food sales allowed, whereby that seems to be the predicate before to get the liquor license and to allow that liquor sales? I just don't see the connection here. And I was wondering if somebody could enlighten me.
Well, I don't know that I can. I typically, when we've approved these, generally they rely on caterers for food. I'm not sure, but this is up to the boards. We have to decide these things, and we need to give guidance to the zoning office and to, in this case, Copper Creek. And And I think we want to be reasonable, and I think the county's issuance of the tourism, and like I said, they don't inform each other, but there are things that are allowed, like in tourism, egg tourism, food to table items like that, something like that. And so they could use, and I think that's what the zoning administrator was looking at, is that they could use a commercial kitchen for a food to table event. That is a different conditional use, again, in an general egg zoning, versus having what I think is generally accepted as the definition of a restaurant, where you serve food to the general public versus a private event.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to that? This is Peter Coyle.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just looking at the plain language of the ordinance and the grant of approval that was given by the county. And it specifically defines ag entertainment as use of agricultural-based buildings for performance or activity intended to entertain others, such as festivals, dances, weddings, corporate gatherings, reunions, concerts, haunted houses, motorized amusement rides. Those contemplate, by their very terms, public and private activity. And it would be the first concert I would have ever gone to as a ticket buying customer that there wouldn't have been food sales available for patrons at that event, and likewise alcohol sales. And the primary point I would make to that is staff, by its own admission, is having to resort outside of the code to come up with its own interpretation of what constitutes a restaurant or what constitutes a bar or a tavern. It's nowhere to be found in your code. And doing that, I would say, is contrary to state law. So, and the last point I would make is that the county zoning administrator in 2021, Mr. Colson, expressly confirmed that food sales was going to be allowed based on the permits that the barn had received. So that question has effectively been asked and answered based on the county's own actions.
I don't disagree with the food sales being allowed. The question is whether it's allowed under what I consider a conditional use in an egg. The stickler is the general egg zoning. If you rezone to limited commercial, or if you rezone to commercial, we wouldn't even be sitting here. I think that's an issue. I don't know. Does corporate counsel have any purview here with this?
Well, if I might, section 13.2.0 says permitted uses are uses which are allowed in that district, provided that the property owner obtains a permit by showing that the proposed use is listed as a permitted use and conforms to all applicable provisions of this ordinance. So in other words, you look at the zoning district, and if the use is listed as an acceptable use, allowed use, then you can do it. You can get a zoning permit and move on. Restaurants and taverns aren't listed in general agriculture. They're listed in limited commercial and general commercial. They're section, it's a long ordinance, pardon me, 13.2.9.02, permitted principal uses in a limited commercial district includes bars and taverns. It includes restaurants, including fast food and drive-in restaurants. And then the general commercial district is 13.2.10.02, includes the purposes that are listed for limited commercial, which would again include bars and restaurants. These are not uses that are allowed in general agriculture. The fact that the applicants have obtained a liquor license doesn't give them permission to operate a tavern in general agricultural districts. The fact that they have built a commercial kitchen with a lot of stainless steel and appropriate sanitary controls doesn't give them permission to operate a restaurant in general agricultural zoning district. They state that they never intended to limit themselves by the information that they provided when they obtained their permit back in 2018. That may be true. They don't have, you don't have to limit yourself, but you got to follow the rules. You got to follow the law. And they simply would rather not do that. The permit doesn't, and I'm quoting here, doesn't preclude or exclude the sale of alcohol. That doesn't mean that you get to open a tavern in a zoning district where taverns aren't a permitted primary use. It means under the conditions defined in the permit, you can engage in the sale of alcohol incidental to family reunions and wedding receptions and the things that were actually truly intended by the permit that the applicants were given. Resorting to a third-party resource, the United States Supreme Court quotes from the dictionary hundreds of times a year. So does the Wisconsin Supreme Court, the circuit courts. They all quote from the dictionary. It helps us to understand what words mean in a conventional sense, and they're very often used to great utility as a persuasive measure to show someone that their interpretation of what the word means isn't really correct. Unfortunate that there was a change in staff. Mr. Colson all along. Now, Mr. Colson, the former zoning administrator, he's not here anymore. He left last summer. All along, he has told these folks, you can't operate a bar and a restaurant in general agriculture zoning district. You can't do it. And he was right then, and his message to them is consistent with what the current zoning administrator, Ann Wodarczyk, is telling them in her communications. This isn't about whether the barn at Copper Creek is a valuable commercial activity in the community. I got to be honest, it's about 2 or 3 miles from my house. And I actually kind of look forward to going there because it sounds absolutely wonderful. But being wonderful and having a good commercial kitchen and having a bar and a liquor license that, well, you've already discussed that. Those things don't give you the privilege of saying we can do whatever we want here, including have a bar and have a restaurant. A bar and a restaurant out there would be fantastic, but it's not, it's the county's position that it's not allowed within the permit that they've got. It's not allowed within the zoning ordinance, and they're just not willing to seek rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond?
Just a
We
minute.
have a board member who's raised her hand.
I'm going to ask Crystal. She had her hand up just before you spoke, Pete.
Sure.
Go ahead,
Thank-
Crystal.
Thank you, Mark. I was wondering, Council, if you could tell us, to your mind, what changed when they were given the agritourism farm-to-table use permit in January? What changed from before that date to now?
I was not involved in the decision-making. What I'm aware of is that they're preparing food out there and inviting the public to come and order off a menu. There aren't any events that are being held. It's a restaurant. And the liquor license that they have is the same one that Pioneer has, that Jake's has, that all of the establishments here in town, in Boyceville, Elk Mound, I believe, is without one right now, but these are the whole thing. They're liquor licenses to set up and have a bar. That
So
was not,
did that farm to table permit allow them that then?
no. It's the county's position that it didn't. Any consumption of alcohol was anticipated to be incidental to periodic events, you know, things that would happen on weekends that were, you know, sort of concentric to families or corporate retreats or something like that. And what they're proposing right now, the frequency of it doesn't matter. What they're proposing right now is that you can just go out there from 8:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the next morning, and you can order Manhattans to your heart's delight. I like Manhattans.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
And that's not allowed in the zoning district. That's the crux of it. Not that it is a good thing that they're doing out there. It's a great business idea and it's a great place to have it, but it's in the wrong district.
and then
Mr.
council,
Chairman, respectfully, that is a gross mischaracterization of what's happening at the property. These are scheduled events on a limited basis, on a seasonal basis, based on specific notice to the public when they are open. They're not open in the manner of a tavern as he's describing. That's
What
not their
I'm saying, sir, and I apologize, is that there's no difference between that daily schedule and what you're doing now. That's what I'm saying. It is a tavern. It's a tavern. It's a restaurant. It doesn't matter that it's only open one day a week. It's a restaurant. It is no longer incidental to the tourism. Is it entertainment or tourism?
Egg entertainment.
It's no longer incidental to the entertainment aspect of it. This isn't farm to table. Every restaurant would be farm to table if it was farm to table. Farm to table means you go out and you make biscuits with the wheat that you grow in the field. You give people cider from the apples that grow in the orchard. It doesn't mean that you have a delivery truck drop off kegs of beer and bottles of, you know, all distilled alcohol and sell them whenever you want. That's the crux of it. The frequency of it isn't relevant. The value of the activity or the desirability of it isn't relevant. What's relevant is they want to operate a bar and a restaurant in general agricultural zoning. They have, I mean, it's a true statement. This is absolutely true. They have rejected seeking rezoning. Their position is we can do this under the permit that we got that they never intended to limit themselves with. They aren't the only ones bound by their words. You know, the Board of Adjustment is also. They made a representation about, you know, what they wanted to do. Those are underlying premises for their activity and the permit that they received. They've changed it up a lot, and all of the changes that they've made are good, but it doesn't give them the ability to just decide that they're going to operate a tavern and decide that they're going to operate a restaurant. It's evolved into something different. If they want to pursue that, they are doing something that wasn't contemplated.
Tim, Pete, you wanted to speak.
But Commissioner Helverson or perhaps one of the other commissioners wanted to speak, and I don't want to cut. I want to let them.
Did Tim, did you
maybe
have
Mr.
your hand?
Porter.
Or somebody, did I miss somebody?
My
Go ahead.
question was about the packet had a sample restaurant night event. how is that an event versus a restaurant?
Is that a question for me, Commissioner?
Yeah, for Chase or the lawyer, for Pete, yeah.
It's an event. It's an event because it's on a scheduled basis. It's not regularly scheduled throughout the year. It could occur or it may not occur at the wishes of the ownership. But more importantly, the county doesn't have any definition itself. Instead, we're hearing people throw interpretations in that fit their own view of what a tavern is or a restaurant is, but there's nothing in the code that informs those conclusions. And so we think these are scheduled events consistent with our permits that have been granted based on the zoning district that we are in.
It's somewhat ironic that it's called restaurant night.
Okay. And staff indicated that operating this use was allowed in 2021.
On February 5th, 2021, I received an email from Bob Colson reflecting a conversation that I had with him over the phone. I asked him if he'd put it in writing, and he said that the quote, restaurant night use is within agricultural entertainment. And the conversation that I had with him largely circled around the importance of making sure that the restaurant nights truly were event-based. So that was the phrase that came up frequently, is event-based. And I pressed him on what that meant, but at the time, his interpretation was it's a scheduled event. You advertise for it. It's not 7 days a week. You know, it's got a specific date. It may have a specific menu, which I would point out all of our events that we held did. And until the action by the zoning department, we fully understood and believed that we were acting 100% within our permit and activities that were expressly authorized by the zoning administrator.
Yeah, we have the correspondence from Bob, and I didn't see any in the correspondence that referred to that. He was, everything that I've seen as far as evidence tells me that Bob was consistent in saying that you couldn't do a restaurant or have a cash bar on a public venue. I don't know if, go ahead, Chase.
So the email, I originally emailed him on January 14th of 2021. I said, hi, Bob. If we wanted to open our farm to the public and serve food, say 1 night a week, and incorporate agricultural elements such as the barn and access to our animals, do you think that that activity falls more appropriately under agritourism or agricultural entertainment? And then we had a conversation, the one that I just explained regarding the event-based activities. And then several weeks later, I said, hi, Bob, just for my records, could you confirm that we discussed the below restaurant night plan by phone and that your office considers that it would appropriately fall under our existing special exception permit for agricultural entertainment? And then he said, Chase, the use of a restaurant night is within agricultural entertainment.
Mr. Chairman, we can provide that to the county if that's not something that you see within your records.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Email to them now.
Ann?
They may ask about this next part.
Ann?
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate point because I was kind of saving some of this for when I was speaking, but Exhibit J in the packet is the letter that officially showed Bob's kind of interpretation there. Again, I'd like to remind everybody that this is an appeal to my interpretation, not Bob's.
No.
So it is good that Bob and I agreed on some things and didn't, but ultimately it came down to what we're here for today. I also didn't see anything that indicated that Bob supported the restaurant nights other than the one email, but it was followed up by an official letter, which is Exhibit J.
Could you bring that up, please? This is Exhibit J. Yep,
There's second paragraph.
it says, I'm going to read it. Of course, it's addressed to Mr. Potter, to Chase, or at least one of them. As per our recent phone conversations regarding operating a restaurant under the county tourism and agritourism permitted use, it is important to understand that the county supports agriculture, but not every agricultural use is necessarily ag tourism. After further review of your proposal, it has been determined that a restaurant is a commercial operation and not agritourism. Restaurants are not a permitted use in the general agriculture district, but are permitted in either the limited or general commercial zoning district. So I think that probably clarifies, because I know I noticed in the material that was provided to us, there was a lot of referring to the agritourism. We are dealing specifically with the special exception under ag entertainment. And like I said, I don't think that one informs the other. You can take that down, Ann. Jill, go ahead. No, we can't hear you. Jill, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can.
Question is, why don't you want to rezone your property as limited commercial? That would solve your problem.
I can speak to this. There's no guarantee that a rezone would be successful. And so what we could have found ourselves is in the situation where we pursue a rezone and then it gets denied. I know there's several commercial rezone requests that have gone through recently for the town of Sherman, and the zoning department staff has recommended denial, and the PRD committee has voted in accordance with that. And the county board has affirmed that denial on the basis of spot zoning and adjacent residential and agricultural properties. Now, as the town of Sherman doesn't have a comprehensive plan at this point, I think it's likely that if we were to attempt to rezone, that we would meet with the same staff recommendation of denial and that the outcome would have been the same. Moreover, we feel that from the beginning, not only have we secured all the necessary permits, but also that we asked for permission before we began any of this. And I understand, and I see that the zoning department has since changed their mind on whether it was allowed or not, but it was always our intent to seek permission and to have the correct permits before we did this. And we now find ourselves in the situation where we got permission, held the necessary permits, and spent a significant amount of money and investment and time to expand our facility based on our permits and the permissions that we received, and then to have the county change their mind. So therefore, we felt that our best chance to continue operating in the way that we think our permits allow is to pursue the validation of the permits that we have and not a rezone.
So you haven't looked into rezoning other than what you assume might happen?
Commissioner, this is Peter Coyle. We've not proposed a rezoning of the property at this time. That's correct.
Okay.
We elected to appeal the determination of the staff because we thought it was incorrect.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, I have another question for council, but I just wonder, we're not exactly into the deliberation part right now, and I wonder if we should move on, or how do we decide when to move on?
Do you have any questions for Chase? I think that we understand the issue. I think, does everybody feel comfortable that they understand the issue on the board?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to move on then to well, obviously, the public comment. We're going to go to public comment. We have several letters, multiple letters. Some for, some opposed, some simply saying that they feel that the original intent should be upheld, and so I would assume that because of the contention, the disagreement here, that there's probably, I would say that's probably one that's opposed to the appeal. And you have those.
We actually have people in the waiting room requesting to speak. Did you want those first?
Those, we can do that. The list that I have, Krista, is Tony Pember, John Sipple, Sarah Paquette, Juliet Fox, and Robert Rosendahl.
That's correct.
Are those 5 there?
They are in the waiting room, yeah.
Okay.
I can admit one at a time.
Yep.
Okay. I will admit John Sipple.
Okay. And just for information, during the public comment, we don't question or whatever. This is totally simply public comment.
It looks like he's still trying to connect to audio. I can put him back in the waiting room and bring someone else in if you'd like.
Yep, just keep going, whatever you can do, so we keep
Okay.
moving forward.
I will admit somebody else.
What do you got, Julia Fox?
Yes, Juliet Fox.
She is muted right now. Can you unmute her?
I sent the request.
Yep, okay.
I'm
Ju-
here.
Yep. Juliet,
Aw.
been a while since I've seen you.
I know, I miss my old Board of Adjustments.
Yeah.
You certainly have had trying times the last
Oh, I
couple of
know.
years doing Zoom meetings. So I appreciate the time. Do you need my name and address here?
Or
Or is it on record?
we don't typically for public comment. But maybe we should do that just as a formality so that we do have the record.
Sounds good. Juliet Fox, N7596, State Road 25, Menominee, Wisconsin, 54751.
Go ahead, Julia.
Okay, I have a couple of things just by listening to your great conversations, and I know that corporate counsel and the chair have a lot on their shoulders to weed through. Mark with managing a meeting, and corporate counsel with trying to find the right ordinance to point the finger at. I do come in front of you as a support to the Potters. A couple of things I wanted to point out as a rule of order, as I used to do. We have made many decisions. I would point back to the old sand mine decisions that did not operate under what the proposal was. And if you were to go back on all of your proposals, you would see the majority of them do not operate according to what they put in their application. And oftentimes, as many of the board members that were on when I was chair would know, that I would make that a condition. You did not. And the conditions that you made had nothing to do with this. There was significant investment in this barn that was based on the opinion of the zoning administrator at the time. Whether or not he made a mistake is not an issue. I will put that out there. I will also put out there, it is ridiculous. Food to table is not what corporate counsel indicated. He's not reading from the law. He's making an opinion, which is inappropriate in this forum. Food to table is any local food served. I think the biggest problem that the Potters made was to call it a restaurant night. If they called it farm to table, you wouldn't be sitting here thinking about this. It is local foods served as an event. I've been to one of them and I was thrilled with it. I was thrilled that it was in my neighborhood. And I'm also thrilled with the economic impact something like that barn does give, which you recognize back in the day when you did pass this. Keep that in mind. It is not operating as a tavern, nor are they suggesting it to be a tavern. They are not operating as a restaurant, nor are they suggesting that they are operating as a restaurant. They are doing events, and some of those events are restaurant nights, which they inappropriately named, in my view, should have been farm to table. There are several other barns and event venues that operate the same exact way that are not zoned commercial, maybe not in Dunn County, but you can go ahead and look at some of the case law there. I'm just so surprised that I can only imagine, I don't know what sparked this. I can only imagine a competitor must have made a complaint. And this board should not be taking complaints from a competitor that is uncomfortable with what's happening. So I don't know how it came to you, but I'm super uncomfortable that it has come to this for the Board of Adjustments. You have better use of your time. Let me just make sure I've got all my notes down. And again, I support them. I wanted to put that out there. I know how long these meetings can go, so I don't want to push it too much further, but remember, your job is to make sure that you've looked at all the evidence and made a decision based on the ordinance, which doesn't mention most of what you've been talking about. Your experience on town boards is not relevant here. What's relevant here is what they're doing, what they've been advised to do, and the impact that they're making. So thank you for your time, board. Thank you for doing the job that I left you doing years ago. I miss it. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who's next?
Next, I will bring in Robert Rosendahl.
Okay. Unmute him. Okay. Okay, Robert. You have public comment? Go ahead.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm here to speak to this. I am muted.
Nope, we hear you.
Okay. I also am in favor of what Chase is trying to accomplish here. And as a land developer and real estate, yes. Yeah, I'm speaking. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead. Just talk, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Or can you hear me? Go ahead, Robert.
Okay. Okay. It seems to me that there could be some kind of amendment to their special use permit. I can hear you. I can hear you, sir.
Do you also have the YouTube live stream going?
I did, yes.
If you want to mute that, you're probably hearing feedback from that.
All right, I apologize.
Pretty likely that they're not operating exactly at the same time also.
Okay, Robert, can you go? Otherwise, we're going to move on.
Okay, am I live?
Yes.
Okay, looks like he dropped out. The next person will be Sarah.
Sarah, can you hear me? Sarah? Can you unmute?
She's now connected to audio.
Okay, Sarah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let me just,
Okay, we're in public comment and you want to speak and go ahead.
yes, thank you. My name is Sarah Paquette. I am the current planning commissioner for Town of Sherman. And I'm here today to speak in favor of the appeal that Chase and Mitchell have proposed today. So just a little bit about me. I'm also a farmer and in Town of Sherman. And one of the things that I have experienced in my last, I guess you could call it 4 years of farming, is a lot of the economic struggles that a lot of working farms go through. And one of the best ways that us farmers can support ourselves economically is to basically be, you know, as resourceful as we can be to find additional sources of revenue, complementary businesses, complementary activities that can support our farm endeavors. Now, a lot of event venues that, you know, end up being wedding barns or corporate gathering locations, these are, you know, agricultural properties that are no longer active in the agricultural sphere. They're not farming actively. Maybe the grandchildren have inherited the property and they're not farming anymore, but they're going to open a wedding barn out of, you know, grandpa's old barn. But that is not the case here with the barn at Copper Creek. This is an active working farm. Now, I am in agreement with the first public commenter. I think her name was Juliet. I didn't quite catch it. In that, you know, maybe restaurant night wasn't the best choice of name for the event. And maybe a farm to table night would have been more appropriate. It also would have been more descriptive because unlike that had been characterized during a little bit of the discussion, this is not just bringing in outside food. This is an event that features not only local agricultural produce, but also the produce of the farm that Chase and Mitchell run. So I've been to several of these restaurant nights, and a lot of the produce that they grow is on the menu. So this is something that is an actual event. They've purchased local meat from, you know, Eau Claire, a farm in Eau Claire, and brought that on board. And I know that there are plans for this next year to actually feature potentially beef grown on the farm on the menu for future restaurant nights, or even pork that they grow on their farm. Because this, like I said, this is a working farm. This is not just, you know, somebody that's come in and started a commercial activity on a land that used to be a farm. This is a working, active farm. So I would ask the board to remember that as you go through and evaluate this decision-making, because the economic activity of, quote, the barn at Copper Creek, as well as the farm activity that the two of them do, this is a symbiotic relationship to make sure that both businesses are as healthy as they can be.
And, farming is hard enough in this state. There's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of, market challenges that we put forth. And, having the ability and the flexibility to work with our county administrators, to work with our county boards of adjustment, to work with folks like myself as the planning commissioner for town of Sherman, to make these farms as successful as they can be, and to make these commercial endeavors as successful as they can be. And, just to be understanding and active and engaging, that's what we would ask. So I would once again like to reiterate my support. And yes, if you guys have any questions, I did submit a written public comment. So I would refer to that as well. Thank you for your time.
That's what I thought, that you had a written one too. So
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yep. Krista, do you have John or Tony?
Yes, I will admit Tony.
I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Tony, are you there?
Thank you.
Yeah. Krista, do you have John or Tony?
Hi, Tony, you must have your YouTube live stream going as well. If you could mute that, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Tony.
All right, I did mute my YouTube live stream.
Yeah.
My
Go
name is
ahead.
Tony Pember. I live at N9572 510th Street in Wheeler, Wisconsin. And I just have a few comments. I've been aware of this situation since last year when the liquor license was renewed for the barn at Copper Creek. They have a Class B liquor license, which is a full liquor license. The town of Sherman has one reserved liquor license, which the winery has, and they were issued an above quota liquor license by the township. And it is my personal opinion that that was issued in error. And I'm going to refer to state statute 125.51, paragraph 4 V1. And in that statute, that's the statute 125 is what talks about liquor licenses. And that particular section talks about above quota liquor license and what type of venues can be issued that type of liquor license. And the first bullet under that is a full service restaurant that has an interior permanent seating capacity of 300 or more persons. And when we question this, I and some other people question this at the town board meetings, and they referred to the definition of a restaurant in that section 125. But you can't cherry pick the state statutes. You have to take the statutes in full. And if you look at statute 97.0114G, the definition of a restaurant, it says restaurant means any building, room, or place at which the predominant activity is preparation, service, and sale of meals to transients and the general public. And I would contend that the barn at Copper Creek does not meet that definition of a restaurant. Their predominant activity is holding weddings at their barn. And so they do not meet the definition of a restaurant according to the state statutes. And I think we can all agree in this meeting that the state statutes need to be followed in this case. And as corporate counsel correctly pointed out, under the ordinances of Dunn County, there's only two places where a restaurant is mentioned as a permitted use. And that's under the limited commercial district and the shoreland recreational district, neither of which the barn has the zoning for. They are currently zoned agricultural entertainment. So I think that, everything the corporate counsel said, and I also support Ann's decision that, it's a wonderful venue, but they have to follow the laws. And they can operate their venue without a Class B liquor license. There's other options that they can look into. They can look into a beer license. I've also talked to Bill Gray at the state alcohol and tobacco, and Bill agrees that they do not meet the criteria to receive the liquor license. Now that's a township issue, and we're going to deal with that on the township level as far as the issuing of that liquor license. But even setting aside the whole township and the liquor license, like I say, if you look at the state ordinances, the state statutes and the county ordinances, they do not qualify for a liquor license. I'd also point out that in their special exception that they had, I don't know if it's been, they've got a different one now, but the one that I had from last year on bullet point 5 on the last page, it said for events that include alcohol, it will be free of charge to all attendees and served by licensed and insured bartenders. So that was the special exception they were operating under last year, and they were in violation of that special exception. It flat out states that if alcohol is served, it cannot be charged for. And then they went to the township and got a liquor license. So I think that the board needs to do the right thing in this case and support their corporate counsel and Ann and not accept this appeal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Do we have, I think John's the only one left. Is he available yet?
I believe so. It says Sarah Stipple, so we will see if this is John.
Where is he? Okay, yep, there's John.
He is still connecting to audio.
Okay. Are you there, John?
He did not connect to audio.
He had trouble last time too.
Yes, he did.
Try once more.
Are we
I'd
going
like
to
to-
try for Are we going to try for Robert Rosendahl again too?
I do have him in the waiting room
Okay.
again. It says joining for John, so it's just taking a bit.
Coming by phone this time.
Looks like it. Then he dropped out. I will bring in Robert. Oh,
Bring in Robert. I would
Sure.
like to hear John, what John has to say. He is a neighbor. He also testified in favor of the special exception at the hearing, at the original hearing. So I would like to hear from him if we can get him connected, but go ahead
Connected.
and pull up Robert.
John is connected now.
Okay. John, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yep.
Sorry
go
for
ahead.
the technical difficulties on my end.
Yeah, no, go ahead, John. We're in public comment and you were listed as having some.
Yes, I had submitted a letter to Krista previously.
have
You
it.
guys see that as well?
No, the board has not seen that. I do have it, and are you going to read from your submission, or are you going to speak additional?
I can do both. So
Um,
I'll start with the letter, I guess. That way everyone can hear it. Then maybe I have the other parting comments, I guess.
Yep,
Good
go
evening,
ahead.
board. I'm here today to speak with you on the appeal request of the Dunn County Zoning Office's decision to allow the barn at Copper Creek to offer a full-service restaurant or restaurant nights. I agree with the zoning office's interpretation of the current zoning ordinances. The barn at Copper Creek was issued a special exemption permit to hold events at the site in 2018. I was actually at that meeting. I spoke in favor
Hold
of
on. This is the court reporter. You're reading very quickly. I need you to slow down if you want this in the record.
Yep, she needs to be able to transcribe as fast as you talk. So
Can
talk.
we just, I'll just read the letter. Can you submit that, Mark, for the court
Yes,
reporter,
if you
please?
want to make comments in addition to the letter, why don't you do that? We do have a letter, and when the in-person public comment is done, I am going to have Ann put up each letter. I don't know that we're going to read all of them. But I do want them, we will have them up on the screen, sir, at certain times so people can scan them.
Okay, sounds good. I guess maybe I'll hit a couple points then on my letter. I feel that the current zoning of general ag and the manuals or the general manuals were stated before. The Dunn County Comprehensive Zoning Manual was quoted before of what was allowed and what's not allowed. It clearly does not allow a alcohol serving venue or a restaurant venue in general ag. The question was brought up to the Potters of why they didn't want to why did they not want to go through rezone to have the permission, I guess, to do that. They felt they wouldn't be allowed to. In my mind, they are trying to circumvent the rules of general ag zoning to fit their needs. My letter goes on to support that as well. In addition to that, Mr. Pember mentioned about some of the special exemption permits, or excuse me, the special exception permit and some of the provisions they had to follow. He mentioned one that they were not following currently. In addition to that, I live approximately over 1,500 feet away from the barn at Copper Creek. There was a noise provision put in place within the special exemption permit. That noise permit is not being followed as well. So there's two instances within the special exception permit that they're not following. I'm afraid, they've already set a precedence that they can't follow the original special exemption permit. I'm afraid if we grant them another special exemption, what else are they going to try to get after this? With that being said, thank you for your time. Hopefully if you have any other questions, you can refer to my letter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John. Do we have Robert?
I will admit Robert.
Yeah, Robert just needs to talk because we could hear him, but he, for some reason, didn't think we could, so. Okay, Robert, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So go ahead, just speak.
I apologize for that. I was streaming at the same time, and I apologize to you and the board for that.
No, that's fine.
I'm
Go
the
ahead.
adjoining property owner across the street. I'm one of the largest taxpayers in the town of Sherman. I support what Chase and the barn at Copper Creek are trying to do. My concern is that they were granted a special exemption permit, and that maybe some of the processes along the way we question as town board or town residents. You've already brought up the liquor license issue. I've met with the town board. I've also met with Chase privately about that. And I think a lot of the residents have that same concern, but we will deal with that on the town level. When it comes to their business, it seems to me they were given a special use permit, and they maybe have needed to amend it along the way to conform with what they've done with their growing business. I'm familiar with that property. It was a foreclosure. They've done nothing but improve it, enhance it, grow it into something wonderful. But I'm not sure that their ambitions have kept up with what their initial conditional use permits were granted. I'm sorry that they've had to endure a regime change, with Bob to Ann. But it seems to me that the county is following and holding them to the special use that they were granted. I've been in real estate for 25 years. I'm going to be in front of Ann tomorrow morning for something else. It seems to me that they should be able to come back and maybe amend their special use permit. I would agree with Chase that I would think there's a zero chance, even with a comprehensive plan in place for the town of Sherman, that they would ever get spot zoning out in the middle of town Sherman for the limited commercial or general commercial zoning for that parcel to accommodate their business. And I would hate to see somebody that has invested so much in the property and their business have their business essentially destroyed because of that. If the property was good enough to get a special use permit for the wedding barn, I agree with Chase 100% on the serving of alcohol and the safety to the community and the guests that are there. It seems like this could be done with a simple amendment or a reapplication of the special use permit conditions that they seem to have done to the property since the initial permit was granted. That's basically what I've got for this.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Thank you, and I apologize for the technical difficulties.
No, that's fine. We've had a few of those. Then put up the letters. We have, like I said, we have several in favor that support keeping it as it is. We have obviously several that don't. Ann, can you? And I don't know, unless the board wants me to read them. Some of them are a little longer, and in the interest of time, I don't know that we need to. This one here, she has up adjacent landowner. Says basically, I'm going to read this one, it's short. I understand that this hearing is only to resolve a difference of opinion between the applicant and the zoning administrator with regards to the limit stated on the permit issued at the original meeting as pertaining to the use of food and alcohol at the Barn of Copper Creek. This notice is not to review or approve any additional conditions of operations beyond those outlined in the subject permit. If the applicants are seeking any additional operating conditions, I believe it would require a separate notice of public hearing. Approval would be after they show adhering to all codes, laws, standards as they apply in Dunn County, and mostly after public comment is determined to be in favor, since a number of landowners are in close proximity. I believe the board should make its decision on food and alcohol activities in strict accordance with the current issued permit. Next one. This one here is from Nancy Heim from Eau Claire. I will summarize it because I've read these already. They came in just to me today, so are actually at the end here. So somebody from Eau Claire that was at the venue and at one of the restaurant nights and enjoyed it, and is complimentary to it. Next one. If I go too fast, the board, please stop me, okay? This is from Jeannie and Norman Illig. Here again, they're the closest residents to the venue, approximately 200 feet from the barn. We have experienced the events in several ways, all positive. So I think that kind of is a summary. We enjoy attending their restaurant event evenings, which are open to the public, and we invite our friends to join us as well. Next. This is a longer one. Kelly Kraus, supervisor for the town of Sherman. Scroll up because on my screen I can't see the top. This is also a letter in favor, and she has attended at least 2 restaurant nights. Had a wonderful time both times. I think that that pretty much sums up this letter and support. Who's this one from? Scroll it down a little farther so I can see. Okay. Amanda Klosterman, Town of Sherman. Scroll up again, please. Right there. She's addressed to the board. She's also attended numerous events at the barn at Copper Creek, both weddings and restaurant nights. I support businesses in our town and specifically egg businesses. Keep our towns rural feel. The barn at Copper Creek is an extraordinary venue, refurbished at significant expense and in keeping with the original turn of the century architecture. She's also a board member of the town of Sherman, and she supports the venue. Scroll down a little bit, or up, or whatever you want to call it. Back the other way a little bit. Right there. It says, I have personal knowledge of the venue. I attended many of the farm table restaurant nights and was present for several weddings. The food for the farm to table restaurant nights has been great, but maybe as important is the unique fun addition this has been to the area. Clearly, the many people that have come to the restaurant nights have enjoyed the events. Next one. Randy Prochnow. The business has become an asset to our community. Chase and Mitchell have a vision for the future of small businesses in our area. We need to support our small business people in any way possible. I have attended the restaurant nights. They are a way to bring the community together and socialize without putting COVID-19 protocols into jeopardy. Next. There can't be too many more. D. Schaefer, is that, hopefully I pronounced that right. This one speaks in favor. This is a beautiful, authentic property, hometown business with very creative owners who have a vision to make this property a favorite among young couples as they take the next step into marriage. Boasts more than just weddings. The owners have hosted celebrations of life, restaurant nights, aka date night. And there's, I'll read the last paragraph. We loved attending the restaurant nights at the barn at Copper Creek that help support the small businesses in our area, such as Stacked Eatery, Nini's Taco Food Truck, Fire Truck Pizza from our own engine number 7, and Brazil's Rock and Roll Food Truck. Next. Is there any more? Another one. Sarah Paquette. Now, this we did hear from her in the public comments. So this one, is a support letter, and like I said, we did hear Sarah's in public comments. So all these letters will be part of the official record. And John Sipple, we did hear from John as well. So I think we have those. Everything takes time, and that's we're that far. So I'm going to ask Ann. Obviously, we kind of know, but I think for the official record that Ann needs to state what the zoning office recommends. And so Ann, if you would do that.
I would not say this is a recommendation, but more of an explanation of the determination made by the zoning office, and more specifically myself as zoning administrator. Just a few things I kind of wanted to touch base on. I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding with what a permitted use and a special exception use and a prohibited use are. So I'd like to explain that just to make this a little bit easier for everyone to understand. Typically, under a zoning ordinance, there are three types of uses: a permitted use, a conditional use, or what we call a special exception use, and an unlisted or prohibited use, meaning that it's not allowed. So an example of a special exception or a conditional use, this is something that's sometimes allowed, is what we've done here with this agricultural entertainment permit. Basically, a special exception is listed for a zoning district and may be allowed if suited to the location and decided by the Board of Adjustment, and specific standards have been met. An example of this is a daycare center in a residential district that is allowed subject to conditions and requirements. In this situation, it's agriculture entertainment, a wedding venue in general ag zoning, which was subject to standards and conditions. People have been bringing up agritourism as a use. I'd like people to understand that this is a separate use. This is not related to the permit that they have for agricultural entertainment. It is a permitted use in that it is a use listed and allowed by right throughout the zoning district and is granted by the zoning administrator with a simple permit. Authorization must be granted if the project complies with general standards of the zoning district. An example of this is a single family home in a residential district. In this case, we have agritourism, which is listed as a permitted accessory use under general ag zoning, specifically this farm to table nights. So with those being said, we also have prohibited or unlisted uses. This means they're not allowed. They're specifically prohibited or not listed for the district. They are not allowed. If the use sought by a landowner is prohibited or not listed, they may seek a special review of the situation through either a special exception permit, a variance, or an amendment to the ordinance. So in this case, an example would be a bar or a restaurant or tavern in a general agriculture district. These uses are listed within commercial zoning districts and they are not listed in the general agriculture district. Therefore, they are not allowed unless they obtain a special exception permit, variance, or amendment to the ordinance. So this kind of comes to some of the determinations made by the previous zoning administrator and myself. We offered them essentially some options to kind of come into compliance. I think we've talked about a lot of the things they want to do out here. These farm to table nights were not what was occurring prior to me issuing this ag tourism permit. They were doing what they called restaurant nights. And by looking at the menu, I don't see that all of the items there were from the farm, but some of them were. So this is something we wanted to work with them on, but there is nothing in the ordinance that just automatically allows this. So some of the options that were given to the potters to do some of these uses, they could request a map amendment to rezone the property as limited commercial. We've talked about this. They could request an amendment to the existing special exception permit. So this would require them asking to serve and charge for alcohol as specified under the Class B liquor license during private parties, weddings, or related events, and to use the kitchen to serve food for weddings and related events. Another option would be to apply for and obtain a zoning permit for agritourism. If they got the permit for agritourism, they could host farm to table events. Another option would be to continue operating as an agricultural entertainment venue as specified in the existing special exception permit. As of today, only option 3 has been pursued, and a zoning permit for agritourism was issued that permits the farm to table nights. This permit does not include agriculture, entertainment, or serving alcohol or operating as a restaurant. This is a very different use than agricultural entertainment. So basically what I want to say is that I feel like this started off, they were following their special exception permit. Everything was good. When they started using the bar and the restaurant, that's when things got outside of the scope of the original permit. In normal circumstances, this would be a chance for them to come to the BOA and request an amendment to their special exception permit and say, hey, you know, we have some major changes that we want to do out here and we want to make sure we're okay. If it was a minor change, it could be done by me as a zoning administrator and just say, okay, this still fits with the original scope and we can move on. However, these are major changes and they either require an amendment to the special exception permit or a rezone. And I am happy to answer any questions anybody might have or any definitions that need to be cleared up.
Does the board, go ahead, Crystal. Go ahead, Crystal.
Yeah, hi, Ann. I just have one. That was great, by the way. Can you tell me what you see as the difference between a farm to table event and an evening where they are operating like a restaurant? Or why you say that the ag tourism permit does not allow them to do what they're doing now? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I think I need everyone to understand that agritourism is a zoning permit. This is something that's done administratively through the zoning department. This is a separate use from what's happening with their special exemption for agriculture entertainment. By issuing this permit, it is not allowing them to have a restaurant. It's not allowing them to invite people out and say, serve food from a menu or anything like that. It's a very specific use. And this is in the exhibits that kind of illustrates what their intent with that was. To me, the difference here is that agritourism is a permitted use. The agriculture entertainment is done through special exception and needs BOA approval. And that's kind of all I've been trying to say, is that to do these things, BOA needs to approve it. I'm not able to just say, sounds good to me, go for it. I think this is what we need.
So when we recommended that they get the agritourism, when we called that number 3 as an option that they had, and we recommended that we did it, and then we granted them the permit, what exactly changed for them? Like what
They're allowed
can
to
they do?
They're allowed to host farm to table events.
And do you have a working definition of what that means?
For agritourism or farm to table?
For agritourism.
Yes, I read that for you. So agritourism is agricultural enterprises, businesses, horticultural or agricultural operations such as a farm, orchard, winery, greenhouse, agri-store, or livestock show, which combine the elements and characteristics of agriculture, agricultural related products, agricultural related activities and uses, and tourism for the purpose of providing recreation, entertainment, education, or active involvement in the agricultural operation, other than as a contract or employee of the operation. Agritourism does not include agricultural entertainment.
Mr. Chairman, could I have Mr. Potter read what he actually requested and what was approved by the county, rather than this after the fact interpretation that we're hearing from staff? I think it would help inform the commissioners who are trying to understand these distinctions.
Yeah, you are permitted to speak. Go ahead. Are you there?
Mr. Chairman, sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
I thought it was unmuted. I thought I'd have Mr. Potter read what he actually requested from the county and what was approved by the county. so that we can be clear about what the scope of the request was, rather than what staff is now interpreting for you.
Well, what staff is, I think she's reading from the, Ann, are you reading from the ordinance?
Sure.
The definition is from the ordinance, but again, they have a certain section that they have for rebuttal, and this is not that time.
Okay, yeah, just hold off, Pete. You'll have opportunity.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
Does the board have any other questions for Ann? Any questions for corporate counsel? Crystal?
I got a lot of questions.
No, that's
Council,
how you get answers.
can you tell me if you know of any food service licenses or liquor licenses that are in operation in Dunn County in a GA zone? Or can you confirm that there are none?
You're asking me?
Yes, I am.
I can't answer either one of those questions.
Maybe
I mean,
Ann could.
I don't have records of that.
I just know you can drive down the highway and get to a bar pretty fast in Dunn County. And I'm wondering if any of those, if every single one of those have been rezoned, or if there's like this question about spot zoning, is that what you called it? And the Potters feeling like they would be unlikely to get a spot zone. There must be about 1 million tiny little spot zones around Dunn County where I go, or they are in GA zones.
So there's some situations where if they had the bar open prior to the town adopting county zoning, they're not applicable here as long as they remain in operation. If they were to close for a year and try to reopen, we'd have a different story. As far as I know, there's no bar or restaurant or tavern that's operating within general ag zoning right now.
I can give some insight into that, Crystal. When the town boards adopt county zoning, they go through the zoning maps. The county gives them maps, and then the townships designate what zoning is there. So like in our case, small parcel in our case is in general ag. Our farms are in primary ag. We don't have a tavern or a bar. If we did, it would very likely be in a commercial or limited commercial. But the board at the time of zoning designates that distinction.
My question wasn't specifically about bars or taverns. It was about the use of a liquor license or the use of a food service license, because I think that's probably what this conversation is coming down to, right? Is this a bar or a restaurant, or is it an event space?
Yeah, I think that is the question. That's the question that I had, and I tried to lay that out, is whether the restaurant night, that aspect of it was permittable in a GA district. And that's from what I understand, and that's the question.
And then can I just ask, so we're asking questions of Ann right now, and then
we're going to have the Potters, Copper Creek will have opportunity to speak.
And then there'll be a point where we close the hearing and
just. Yep,
okay.
that will be the end of it, and then we are going to make a decision.
Thank you.
Okay, Pete, could you speak, please?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Before I have a couple of comments and let you then go to your deliberations, I wanted Mr. Potter to just recite for you what he actually proposed to the county and what we think was permitted by the county as part of this food to table conversation we're having.
So this was the proposal which was approved with the agritourism permit. It says the specific agritourism use proposed is farm to table events. Farm to table events are open to the public food events that take place on a farm property and incorporate locally raised or sourced food into a meal. As an event-based use, the farm-to-table menu changes with the seasonal availability of locally sourced food, resulting in a rotating and evolving menu, which showcases the best that local farms have to offer. I also wanted to point out, I am aware of 2 other agritourism venues. I'm not sure that they actually have an agritourism permit like we were required to get and to pay the $200 fee, but they are operating on under the agritourism use. Govin's Corn Maze and Pumpkins has a corn maze and other activities, and they do serve food, which include hot dogs, hamburgers, brats, cookies, apple cider. So all of these things do require a licensed kitchen, and it is food being served to the public. So under the same definition that you're using to say that we cannot be a restaurant in general ag zoning, this venue operating under agritourism is also meeting that definition. Also, Valley Pasture Farm and Pumpkin Patch is in an area under Dunn County zoning, and under their concession menu for their fall activities, they have homemade local hot dogs or brats, nachos with cheese, homemade pretzels, etc. So likewise, these are also food items that require a licensed kitchen to be served to the public and would make them a restaurant under the definitions that you're using.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of concluding comments then. First of all, thank you very much sincerely to you and the commissioners and staff for this extended discussion. We obviously strongly disagree with the position that your staff has taken. And I want to specifically object to the characterizations of the business that have been offered by some this evening, including on the county staff when they've not been on the property for these events. It was noted by one speaker that he had not yet visited the farm, but then he proceeded to characterize the things that they were doing on the farm. And I would say that that's not evidence, that's opinion, or even speculation. And then ultimately what this comes down to is interpretation of words that are not defined in the county's code. Restaurant, tavern, bar, whatever you choose to use. The fact that the staff can't point to a definition in the code that they are using to restrict these uses is inappropriate, and I would say violates state law. And we think at the end of it, this is a great business. The county ought to want to embrace these folks and what they are doing on the property. They've tried to do it the right way. They've tried to be transparent. The business has evolved. They've done their best to make sure they had the proper authorities in place, both for liquor sales as well as for food sales. And it's unfortunate that we've come to this point. And with that, Mr. Chairman, we ask for your support of this appeal and that you validate the uses that the Potters have been putting their property to this evening. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Does the board have any questions for the Copper Creek representatives? Just want to make sure that we cover all the bases, that we have all the we have differing opinions, and and I guess the thing that I'm interested in is that we have the full information, all the information, so when we go to make a decision here shortly, that all the questions are answered. Because when we go into our decision process, everybody's muted and we alone discuss this and come to a consensus for guidance with this. And before we do that, I want to ask Ann if as we go through this, I just surf the internet myself, looking at different venues. Some of these venues are permitted certain days of the week, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The board can do that. The board has a lot of discretion in our decision making. And so what does zoning have? Does zoning have any insight to that if there was an amendment to the special exception?
So I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that I don't have the authority to say whether they can do this under their special exception permit. That's for the BOA to decide. And that's what my determination has been, is that this needs to be a decision either by the BOA as a special exception permit amendment, or there needs to be a rezone to allow for all of these uses. Which is why the agritourism permit can allow something, well, this doesn't automatically allow it, or the ordinance doesn't automatically allow it. That's all I've been saying. So if we had to go look through all of these other ones, they're all under different circumstances. There's different conditions that have set forth. There's different things that were in their applications. It's really difficult to compare each situation. They're all
that's why it comes to the Board of Adjustment.
Correct.
And that's why we're here.
Yep. We're not trying to shut down Copper Creek. Like, we just want to make sure we follow the correct paths for all of these things.
Well,
and that we're treating everyone the same.
I think that's the key. I think the land use, consistency of the land use is important in a zoning district. I think the special exception, as someone noted, uses old buildings and such that normally we all have them around us are falling down. And so, we're aware of that. I did want to, and I don't want to I stated that the ag tourism does not inform the ag entertainment and vice versa. If I recall, and you did include the ag tourism permit application and permit response when you approved it. And in that permit response, they are not allowed to serve alcohol as a condition on that permit. Is that correct?
Since this is a zoning permit and it's something that's a permitted use, we are not allowed to apply conditions.
Okay. Yeah.
However, I did not approve anything that said they would serve alcohol.
Okay, I thought that was in the permit. Maybe I misread it.
I can bring that back up if we'd like to make sure.
Jill, go ahead. Do you have a question?
I'm just reading that same thing, and I think I understood that would not be able to allow under the ordinance alcohol or preparation and service of food to the public is not allowed under the special exception permit.
Yeah.
I'm just reading what I put off so that I would have something.
Is that under the ag tourism?
Well, I'm just reading the note,
yeah, go ahead.
On summary prepared by the staff. It gave us the different conditions offered, requesting a map amendment, requesting amendment to the existing special.
Yeah, you're on the special exception. Okay.
Yeah. Now, so they applied for the ag tourism permit, and
just recently
they can request an amendment to the existing special permit that says that they can serve alcohol and food, right? So those are, you haven't even, okay.
Yeah, they can do that. They can do that in the events. The zoning administrator or zoning office agrees that they could do that for a wedding venue and such.
Right.
The restaurant night, that aspect throws Well, words are important.
They sure are. Oh my gosh,
So,
uh,
because the food to table, farm to table, they could have an event night, farm to table, and wouldn't be an issue.
Oh, options.
But we can, the board does have discretion to, like I said, when I surfed different sites, different venues and such, I think I'll save that discussion for when we get to it. Corporate counsel, do you have anything that you would like to add before we shut down?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Does any of the board have any questions of anybody that's available here? If you don't, I'm going to close this part of the hearing, and we will deliberate amongst ourselves, and we will come to an opinion and provide guidance on this issue. So don't everybody speak at once. Go ahead, Crystal.
Okay, so I think I made this crazy motion in 2018, if I remember properly.
Yeah.
So I think I can try my hand at speaking to it first, what I'm feeling right now. I noted that we did not refer to alcohol or food in the motion.
Right.
So we talked very specifically about when, camping, number of guests, music, lighting, toilets, providing a plan, noise, and parking.
Right.
And we did not say that alcohol was prohibited. And we didn't also say food was prohibited. And I remember discussion about it. And I do remember them saying that they would not charge for alcohol. My read on that is that that was the appropriate read for them not possessing a liquor license at the time, and was more of a description of how they would start the business. And the same would be true for food. They didn't have a kitchen or water. So they knew that they would be starting off with caterers coming in. I would say that I just want to commend the veracity that these guys have had to build this kind of business. You guys know I'm in the local food movement, and I celebrate tomorrow my 18th anniversary at the food co-op. Long time. And I can count way more farms that have closed and past customers and vendors to the co-op than I can count current. And it's not easy, as Sarah mentioned in the public comments, Sarah Paquette. And so I think counties all around us are doing a really great job at building these really fabulous events. I travel all the way down to Mondovi to go to Burger Night at Together Farms. I have no idea what their zoning is and what permissions that they have, but it's a couple hour drive. It's absolutely worth my time to support local agribusiness. So when I read what we have said to them, what we said to them in 2018, my read of it is that they're not doing anything that goes against the specific conditions that we provided them in 2018. My read would also be that the restaurant nights that they've had, whether or not they had every single one of them after they got the permit, I can't handle figuring out the past or whatever, but it seems to me that those events are exactly what a farm to table event is. So, although I recognize that the zoning is a different issue and the lack of the word restaurant or bar in our ordinance is a giant problem, I don't see what they're doing per se as running a restaurant or a bar, as I have tried to run both. And it's a different thing than what I see them doing, which is creating events inside their agricultural building so that people may be entertained and learn about a working farm. So I have no idea what that means for this group. If it means that I think like no action is necessary. I'm sort of surprised that we didn't put alcohol into our conditions, because I know we talked about it and we have in other folks that have been creating barn venues. But I do recognize that this is a really unique property where it's actually a working farm and not an old barn that's been turned into a different kind of venue where food is always brought in from the outside, or always not local or part of that farm economy. So at this moment, I'm feeling like I'm in support. And I recognize that they have a little row to hoe with their liquor license, probably.
Anybody else? I'm going to just call on you, Tim. What do you have anything to add to the discussion?
Well, I think, I commend, Chase and his partner to how they've moved the goalpost, so to speak, on their business. I'm not anti-business. I remember you saying, Mark, that the consistency in how these things are handled, I think, is really an important item, and the fact that the restaurant thing is, it is an event, I understand, but at the same time, if you're going to have a bar and a restaurant, it really needs to be zoned commercial to qualify as what they're trying to do at this stage of the game. I think if we can, be sympathetic to some type of a rezone, I think it's a admirable thing in the future. But at this point, I think we need to look at consistency, and the consistency is to not go with the bar and restaurant. It's not on the list. And granted, the item is probably needs amending, but that's on our job here. And that's pretty much what I'm thinking.
Jill?
I've read through this again, what's happened in the last year with Bob Colson and Ann and the various, what Bob tried to, the communications were there. And I just feel like they do think they have a restaurant and a bar. If you're selling liquor to whoever comes in the door, it's not quite the same as having an event a special event. Well, no matter what the special event is. And I understand the need for, I love concept, and but I don't think if that's what they were selling, then they should have called it that. They were selling restaurant night and liquor. And I don't blame them. I mean, that's where you're going to make your money. But there must be some other way to get that same thing done. So
like when we go to the races on Friday in Menominee and we buy a beer, is that a bar? Just because there's a beer for sale at the race?
I'm not going to get into a discussion about that. But
I'm just curious about it. Like, is that, I'm curious about what makes something a restaurant. It's not the presence of food. because there's food all over in different places that are not restaurants. And I'm a neighbor to Pleasant Valley, or not Pleasant Valley, but the second farm that they mentioned. I live right in between the two farms that they mentioned, Govin's and then the pumpkin patch place. I don't consider those restaurants just because I can go there and get a burger when there's an event that is the pumpkin patch. I really think that's exactly what ecotourism is. And the fact that I can get a burger there helps me stay all day, right?
Before I say anything, does anybody else have any additional comments? I think I agree with Tim on the consistency of zoning. And I agree with Jill that if it's open, if the bar is open and anybody can come in and get a drink, not necessarily eating even, that is a different use, I think. I also agree with Crystal. I think the ability to have a venue like that is a good thing. And I think it does promote, in some aspects, I think it does promote agriculture. What I'm going to suggest, and I'm just suggesting it, and I'd like discussion on it, with a bar or a restaurant versus this egg entertainment, which would be egg entertainment generally. I mean, really substantially and probably totally is an event-based business. And it uses agricultural infrastructure that isn't usable anymore, isn't being used anymore for its original purpose. What I'm thinking, and I don't know if it's right thinking or wrong thinking, but since this is discussion, this is the time that we need to think. If the days were limited, a restaurant or a bar can be open 7 days a week. If the days are limited and the events, so the use is conditional and it is targeted, that precludes it becoming a 7-day restaurant or a 7-day bar under the definitions that we sometimes would put with an establishment. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but would an amendment to the special exception that would limit, put days in place that events can be held, do Tim or Jill think that would be a compromise or a infringement on the general egg zoning, or would it be targeted to keep it within the egg entertainment venue? And like I said, we aren't here to discuss the egg tourism. I'm just rolling things around in my head, and sometimes I'm dumber than a post, and sometimes you got to talk, you got to say things to try to get an understanding and what we think. Is there any comment on anything I've said?
I really haven't thought about limiting. Go ahead, Jill.
Oh, you go ahead. Yeah, I'll talk after you.
Okay. I really think that I hadn't really thought about limiting the time period that could be used. But then again, that does, limit the business when they can do corporate things, in the middle of the week. If we just say, okay, Wednesday to Sunday, or, however you want to throw that out. So if we limit the days that the bar and restaurant can be functional, I think that's limiting what the business can do and the revenues it can generate. And I, again, don't think that's what we should be doing at this point, but I can see your point as a compromise.
Yeah, I just was, there are some venues that are permitted that way on a conditional use. That's why I brought it up. But I wanted to see what others did, Go ahead, Jill.
Well, I agree with Tim. I mean, it's a business. And so it gets back to, I keep reading this. And number 2, and I'm not, this to me is the only thing we're going to, that's important. Request an amendment to the existing special exemption permit, specifically requesting to serve and charge for alcohol during private parties, use of the kitchen to serve food for weddings and related events only. So when we get to the restaurant part, that's the whole sticking. We're asking for.
I'm not catching this.
Yeah, you're garbled there at the end, Jill. Restate that.
Jill, can you try turning your camera off?
Yeah, if you turn off your video stream, you might get a stronger signal.
Yes,
just with
because
Krista, can you do that or not?
Lower left-hand corner, probably.
Just says stop video. Yep. Okay,
Perfect.
Jill, now try it. Now unmute yourself, Jill. Okay. Now speak. Now maybe it'll come clearly. Go ahead.
All right. They can request an amendment to the existing special exemption permit. And they can request surcharge alcohol.
Still garbled. Yeah, it's still not clear.
They haven't. Oh, I'm sorry. Just
now we can understand you now.
Okay. Am I shouting?
You're clear now. Try it again.
Okay. All right. They can request an amendment to the existing special exemption permit, specifically requesting to serve and charge for alcohol during private parties, weddings, related events, to use the kitchen to serve food for weddings, related events. Are we discussing, when we talk about related events, that's when we get into this thing about farm to table or restaurant, correct? I mean, I'm just like,
Jill, what is permitted right now? And I think, from my understanding, is that originally they did not have a liquor license to sell liquor.
Right.
Or alcohol. Doesn't have to be liquor. And they did not have a license or a commercial kitchen. So the event relied on catering, and it relied on the wedding parties to provide the whatever drink there was, and it required a licensed bartender to dispense it.
This was one of the options Anne gave to. Can you hear me?
Yep.
No. That Okay, that's one of the options that Anne gave them. That they haven't, the only one they answered was the one about applying for, they didn't talk to her about that. Or is that what?
The
I'm
option
like,
they
here-
chose was for us to approve what they were doing under the special exception that currently exists. That
They
is the
could have
option.
asked for they could have asked for an amendment.
Yep,
That was one of the options given to them.
yep.
It says,
Nope, that's
And-
true.
But the
Chris-
current decision that we made did not limit them from selling alcohol or food. We didn't address it. So we didn't give them officially and in the record, we didn't tell them that they can't serve alcohol or food, private or public. What we said they could do is we would give them a special exception permit for agricultural entertainment, which meant that they could use their building and land for an event. And then we talked about toilets and light and noise.
Oh, that's right.
sure, but they could have, I mean, just now, this is in the last few months, they could have asked for an amendment.
But why would they amend it? Right now, it gives them total right to sell alcohol or have food. In that it doesn't limit them. It doesn't say they can't do it. So they did the other things like get a liquor license and a food license to do it. We didn't limit them in that regard. I understand that there's a zoning question, but our special exception permit does not limit them.
I'm also thinking, if you have these options, do as many as possible. You know, it's like, I understand why they can't get a limited commercial. It sounds like it's unbelievably hard to do. And
Mark,
think they
even if we
sure of that.
limited them on the number of days that they would be allowed to use this special exemption, we have no purview as to how often they would use their ecotourism permit and do a farm to table event, right?
Yeah, that we're dealing strictly with the special exception.
And so how do
Crystal.
we figure out if they're using farm to table? If they can use farm to table to sell food and alcohol to the public as an event, why are we here talking about this? I'm still kind of confused as to what, I mean, sorry, I'll say it's obvious that there's a conflict and that Bob and then Ann have done the very best that they can to interpret, to make an interpretation. So I understand we have to clarify that. But I guess I'm just trying to figure out what current thing did they do that's not allowed under one or the other of those two permits. Like specifically, what is it?
I can read it off this list.
Yeah, charging for alcohol.
The zoning administrator, Bob Colson, determined that the special exemption permit approval was based on the applicant's application testimony that alcohol be served free of charge, and thus determined the retail sale of alcohol operation of a bar and restaurant was in violation of the special exemption permit.
So I get that, but I'm wondering if it really is true, because in our motion, we did not mention alcohol. In our motion, which is the only thing that like we actually as a body approved.
I think, I don't know, from my experience, Crystal, we didn't address it because of two things. First of all, the applicant didn't bring it up, and the applicant said that it would be free of charge. So, and secondly, we didn't address it because Bob Colson, our zoning administrator, didn't consider it to be allowed in General Lake District. That's the two reasons we didn't address it. If it and what has happened, typically, this is a bit unusual. It really is. Typically what happens, and I know Juliet said being a town chair doesn't give you experience, but it does inform. Typically what occurs in a situation like this is that the venue, the person that has the special exception, knowing what they testified to at the hearing, at the original hearing that was approved, if they're going to change that activity, if you want to call it that, typically they would contact the zoning administrator and check to see if that was an approved use in an ag district, in a general ag district. The special exception doesn't give a blanket approval for everything. It's really a conditional use permit. And so those are the two reasons that I think that we didn't address it. And most of these we never have addressed because in general ag zoning, it isn't permitted. Bob Colson understood that and believes that same thing, you know. And that's why we've done several of these things, and it's never been part of the conditions. We have never addressed it, to my knowledge.
Alcohol?
Alcohol for sale.
Well, an applicant has never had a liquor license.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that, and you understand what I'm saying, typically, and this goes back to the town board as well. The town board has jurisdiction over liquor licenses. Before that liquor license in our town, before a liquor license of that sort would have been permitted or given to a venue in a general ag zoning, typically the town board would call the zoning and see if that was an approved use. I mean, that's how the zoning and the board and the township, the townships that have comprehensive zoning, they work they work together. They don't do just, the town board just doesn't do this. And then in this case, the town board did something and the zoning administrator reacted to what the town board did, saying, you know, you did this, but it's not a permitted use. And that's been consistent in our county zoning, whether it was Bob or whether it's now Ann, in a general ag district. And that's why we've never had something like this happen, is because there's always been communication between the township and the zoning and the comprehensive zoning, Dunn County, in the zoning office. The zoning office is charged when a township adopts comprehensive zoning. The town is saying they want the county to enforce consistent land use in those districts, whether it's residential or whether it's general ag or whether it's commercial. But that's why, to me, that's the two reasons that we have never addressed this before and why we didn't put it into this permit. When the question came up about selling license or whatever, or selling alcohol, I stated that, you know, I know you need a license. And I know you do. And Bob, speaking right after me, said it has to be dispensed by a licensed bartender. Now, whether, and one can interpret what I said as saying it has to be a licensed bartender, or else you could just say, well, you got to have a liquor license, you know. But that's why we haven't addressed this, and that's why this is very unusual, because normally there's communication between the town and the zoning office before permits are issued and before things are done. And I think if we look through some of the stuff with commercial kitchen, and I don't have any problem with commercial kitchen, but the person that permits the commercial kitchen at the county, I think it's the health department or whoever it is, they made note and say, did you check with zoning to see whether this was permitted in this general ag use? I mean, the county people just assume that there's communication between a venue or a town board to stay within the parameters that the county sets, and really it's the county for consistency. And that's why I spoke to the zoning consistency, is because do you want to have consistency in the fact that say you have something else, another one, and they do, if it's approved to have, I can understand an event night or something like that. If it's approved to just have a restaurant night, that's a restaurant night. If another person applied for an egg entertainment venue and said, well, you approved the restaurant use here, I could just do a restaurant use. I mean, that's where the consistency needs to be, is that it doesn't, zoning specifically tries to tie land use with surrounding area, and that's why what they call spot zoning is rarely approved, because putting a commercial or limited commercial in the middle of an ag district, but it's really rarely done. Normally that would whether it's and I'm not opposed to doing it, I'm just saying that I hope that answers your question, though.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
It's because the zoning administrators, prior and future or current, automatically in their mind and in their training say that these two uses are not approved in a general ag zoning. That's where we have the issue. The issue really comes about with the town board issuing the liquor permit, and that's in their purview. They can do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it can be used in a general ag zoning.
But then as far as the farm to table, or what they maybe erroneously called restaurant nights,
yeah,
a farm to table event falls under the permitted use of a GA, which is ag tourism.
Ag tourism, yeah.
So we cannot make them cease and desist if they have a farm to table event.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, okay.
That's my understanding. And that isn't why we're here. We aren't talking about farm to table.
So what are we talking about?
Farm to table isn't something that we do in an ag entertainment venue.
Okay, so what are we talking about then? Because it seems like they've been totally in compliance with everything that we've talked about in their weddings. Excuse me, chat.
Yep. And I think the farm to table permit gives them, they call it restaurant night. They probably want to rename that farm to table, but it would be unusual to have a farm to table night. Usually that's an event. That's a 1 week event or a 1 day a week event.
Yeah.
What's to say, Crystal, that if we approve it, that it can't be a farm to table 5 days a week?
Yeah, so that gets back to your idea of limiting the number of days.
You understand what my mind is churning is
But that again isn't under our purview, right? Like, however, if they wanted to have 7 farm to table events a week, that would fall under whether or not they're properly using their ag tourism permit.
Yeah, that would be that, but see, that isn't our jurisdiction, and that is up to the zoning administrator. That is a permitted use that doesn't require a special exception.
Mhm.
And the zoning administrator oversees that. And if there's a complaint, I know Juliet said that a competitor complained. We don't know who complained. I mean, I think, but Bob received a complaint, and then it was confirmed that and I think, I'm not sure, I don't know this, Tony Pember, but what he, in the public comments, he said it was approved because it met a restaurant criteria. And so I think, and they're going to have to sort that out at the town level in some manner. And because I think in the communication I read, unless I misread it, I think the discussion that Bob Colson had with the ATF guy said that he didn't have any problem with the serving of alcohol because it met the restaurant criteria.
Or ag tourism criteria.
Well, he wasn't talking about ag tourism. He was specific, but that ATF is a federal deal. They don't enforce state law.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, so if you are suggesting that we might limit the number of days that they can, we certainly can't limit the number of days that they can serve alcohol, because we can't even limit that because that's municipally controlled, right?
No, we can limit that because it is under an entertainment venue.
Except for when they're doing farm to table. We can limit it for their weddings.
But we don't have to limit it for the weddings.
Well, then I think we're done.
You know, I'm just saying, you know, but it's actually whether they can do it going forward in the weddings is going to depend on that liquor license.
Yeah.
Its viability, I think. But anyway, I don't know if we're ready to vote or not, or make a motion or what, you know.
I just feel like, are we going to we set a precedent here. We're going to hear this over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when I just know some businessmen who would just go ahead and do it and then worry about the consequences afterwards because they could get around it because they were building useful buildings or whatever. And it's a kind of like, I know that they've got a great business. Also thinking, I don't know. I don't know how to control this.
You got the same problem I have, Jill. It doesn't set a precedent that isn't proper in a general ag zoning.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the issue I have, because my experience on town board, if you're not consistent, you got all hell breaks loose.
No kidding.
You got people mad, say, well, they can do this, why can't I do this? I'm more concerned with the consistency of it in a general ag zoning and how we think it's applied. We know what the zoning administrator, we know what the county thinks, we know what our corporate counsel thinks. Obviously, Copper Creek and their lawyer disagree completely with that. But unfortunately, we have to sit in these chairs and we have to decide.
I think we're, we don't have to solve this. They asked for an appeal, and we either accept or reject the appeal. And then it's the ball's back in their court at this particular time to work with Ann and to maybe come back before the board for an exception.
They do have
or an adjustment.
They do have, it isn't like it's shutting them down at all. It's
it's not like we're putting them out of business.
They can ask for an amendment. I mean, just can't quite figure out why you have to have us interpret, from 2018 and saying that's okay, whatever. I think they can come back and ask for an amendment. And I'd be okay with that.
So if we reject their appeal, is what we're saying that they may not operate a bar or restaurant? Is that what the appeal is?
Well, the appeal is to get approval for those nights that are not wedding venue or a retreat venue or a corporate gathering or a family reunion, that it's specifically to say you can't have a restaurant night per se. Now,
if we reject the appeal, we are saying you can't have a restaurant night under the agricultural entertainment special exception.
Right.
But
Correct.
They may have a farm to table event under their other permit.
That's what I said. These are completely separate. And we need to, and that's really hard to it's hard to get your mind around when they're completely separate and different ones allow different things. And that's why it's so easy to convolute it. And that's why I stated multiple times, one does not inform the other. One permit does not inform another permit, and that permit doesn't inform. In this case, it's ag entertainment does not inform the agricultural tourism, and vice versa. There are things that you can do in agricultural tourism that you can't do in ag entertainment, and one of them is, and I think probably, I don't know if I should say it, but it is probably the farmy table deal. So I think if we did deny the appeal, it keeps in consistency what's allowed in the ag entertainment venues.
Right.
And it does not stop anything that's allowed in the ag tourism. I think that's proper. Ann, will you unmute? I want that. Am I stating that properly?
I'm sorry, I do not know exactly what you just said because that kind of went on for a little bit.
Yeah, I said that if we deny the appeal, it doesn't keep them from doing what they're doing with their entertainment events. But and it also doesn't stop anything that would be farm to table in the ag tourism. That ag tourism allows a situation that allows an event that's different than what is allowed in an ag entertainment venue.
Correct.
That's what I said. So denying the permit isn't going to stop them from operating an ag entertainment venue. And they are still going to be able to have a farm to food or farm to table event. And there was a question in the discussion, how often can they have a farm to table event?
The proposal for farm to table was no more than 2 nights per week.
Okay,
Again, the agritourism permit and farm to table is totally separate. It does not
Yep.
allow for alcohol to be served. This is a separate thing. This determination is for the retail sale of alcohol under the ordinance and under the special exception permit, and the sale of food for events open to the public under the special exception permit and the general ag zoning district.
it does not stop them from serving food at a wedding venue though, right?
All this is saying is that they need to follow the original things that they set forth in their special exception permit. And if they're going to be doing these different changes, I'm going to bring it up on the screen so you can see it, because I don't think it's 100% appropriate for me to be speaking right now. So you can see the determination written out and you can decide if that's,
So you're talking about the four options.
No, you are, this is for an appeal to my determination for 2 specific things. I'll bring my screen up here.
Thank you, Ann.
Let's see this. Page is up. Yep.
Okay, when I read the second one, Ann, does that mean it's not allowed, food sales is not allowed at a wedding venue? I mean, you understand what I mean?
No, I'm basically just saying that events open to the public. This is
You're talking open to the
private wedding
public,
events.
not private wedding events.
It's just the preparation, service, or sale of food for events open to the public is not allowed under the special exception permit, nor is it allowed by ordinance.
Yep, and does that include a wedding reception then?
No,
That's what I thought. You're talking private versus public. A private event, a retreat or corporate gathering or something like that would be considered a private event.
again, this is, I can't be adding any more information here. I don't think that's appropriate. So I think you're just gonna have to work with what you have. I'm
Well,
so sorry.
we just asked for clarification. That's what we're asking for. Okay, thank you. You can take it down.
No, please leave it up.
Oh, I guess she wants to leave it up.
I mean, because this is the only thing that we are discussing today, right?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay, so if we reject their appeal, we are agreeing that these 2 statements are true.
Yes.
And if we accept their appeal, we are saying that something's wrong on this piece of paper. Do I have that right?
State the last sentence. I didn't catch it.
If we approve their appeal, it means that we're agreeing that there's something in here that's not right.
Yes.
That is why they need to, if we deny this, they do have the right to ask for an amendment.
They can come back for another hearing and ask for a
Yes.
specific amendment.
Yes.
Or they could continue to point to their ag tourism permit when they do this. Am I correct there?
I think they can, in some sense, yes. As long as it was, but it would have to be a targeted event, you know, I mean, you know, it would have to meet the specification under whatever the ag tourism farm to table event criteria is, which is basically locally sourced or locally grown. So that aspect, I don't think that is, you know, like I said, these are totally separate things. And the ag tourism permit does allow them to do things that that aren't.
We don't.
Yeah, that ag entertainment venue doesn't allow.
Mhm.
And that may sound very stupid, but that's why the ag tourism section in the zoning is separated completely from ag entertainment. It's because of the different uses, and the uses have to be compatible with the zoning district. And so that yeah, that's basically, I think we understand it, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we've killed this until we're both dead.
We're going to be very good at this the next time it comes up.
Yeah. No
well,
kidding.
I think this is the first appeal that I've ever had, and I think, like I said, it's really important to me that everything is covered.
Yeah.
That we cover everything, and we try to make as best appropriate a decision that we can with the information we have. And I think my personal opinion, I don't you know, the zoning administrator could have simply came to the board and asked for the permit to be revoked in her determination. We aren't discussing that tonight. And so I think the zoning administrator is trying to go through this, and she's the one that told them that they could appeal her decision. You know, I don't think maybe they knew that, maybe they didn't, but she's the one that put out what their options were, and so our zoning administrator is trying to work. Zoning administrator tries to make things work as best as they can, and still hold the line in these zoning districts that is acceptable with the surrounding zoning, you know, in these zoning districts. So I don't know. Does anybody want to make a motion to the left or the right on this?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Tim.
I make a motion that we reject the appeal.
I second it.
Motion been made and seconded to reject the appeal. Any further discussion?
I don't want to chase business away. But there's two words on these 2 points: general agricultural. And you know, that has to be our defining item. They can always come back and appeal, or not appeal, but they can always ask for an exemption, or they can ask for a zoning change.
Yeah,
It's not, we're not putting them out of business.
no, our intent, it's not my intent to put them out of business at all.
No, no.
I don't think we want to do that. I don't think that's in the interest of the community. I don't think it's in the interest of the town or the county. And I think what you said, Tim, is probably right. The general agricultural zoning district is what
It's all about.
That's the one that sticks with me, it's consistency. So motion is made and seconded to reject the appeal. I guess there's four of us. So I think we'll just call a roll call vote.
One
Tim?
second. I have
Oh,
one
go
more
ahead.
thing to ask you, Mark. That's like the shortest motion we've ever made in the history of this group. And you're the one that's always asking us to add more. So I'm just making sure that somewhere written is the actual language of the appeal, which is very long, but like, I want it to be clear that we are actually confirming that alcohol sales are not allowed in a GA by ordinance, and that's what we're confirming. Because there was a lot of pieces of evidence and information about you can or can't do this that is sort of like interpretation of these two statements.
Well, I think the statement is pretty plain. There's no question about that.
You're talking about what we see on the screen.
Yes.
So when we say we reject the appeal, is it clear that what is the appeal?
The appeal was the decision of Ann to them on, oh God. I've got to look it up here.
I just feel like we have to get the words right.
I did, Crystal, if you've got an amendment to the motion, I mean, we're open. I am, I don't know about Joe.
I'm not sure that you can over amend this though, because you either accept the appeal or you reject the appeal.
Yeah.
Can you say in a sentence what the appeal is?
The appeal is to allow the sale of alcohol in a general ag district. And the appeal also, it really goes back to
This is what it said on there.
It what?
This is what they asked for was a special exemption permit for agricultural entertainment.
Yeah.
That's what they requested on their application.
You're talking about their application from 2018?
No. This is, oh, you might be right. I've got so many papers here that I read.
Oh, there was a
That
lot
I
of
ran
papers.
off. I didn't, yeah. Wrong one.
I do think that this isn't the time to try to solve the problem. I think you either accept, approve the appeal or you deny the appeal. And the door is opened to come back to try to redefine that special exception. If there was something else there, that the zoning administrator and the corporate counsel thinks would fit in as far as the language in that special exception. But I don't think this, unlike some things, I don't think that this is an amend. This is approve or disapprove appeal, and I think that is the way it is. And but like I said, some of the things, the second one with the food, the ag tourism in that there does have the farm to table, situation there. So it isn't, the intent isn't to shut these people down or to cause them hardship in any manner. It's really to define what's allowed in the general ag zoning.
Okay, then I would offer a friendly amendment that your motion say, we reject the appeal and affirm that, and then list those two, number 1 and number 2 that was just up on the screen. Because they were basically asking us to affirm the opposite in their letter. Like they ask the Board of Adjustment disregard the opinion letter of the ZA and affirm that no restriction or condition exists to prevent the sale of food. So we would be rejecting their appeal and affirming that language that says, can you pick that up on the screen again?
Basically affirming number 1 and 2.
Yes.
Yep. I don't know if we
Mr.
can
Chair,
get
Be
that.
amenable to that.
I apologize for interrupting you. I just wanted to let you know, Anne lost her internet connection and she's now in my office.
Okay.
So she can hear you, and if you need her, she's right handy.
All right.
Well, so the motion has been made and seconded to deny the appeal. Crystal was asked that we amend that motion to include those 2 bullet points that were up, or basically to affirm those 2 points that are not permitted in a general ag zoning. Is that what your amendment is, Crystal?
It is, but I think it's impossible to see them right now, and I would like to see them because I feel confident about the alcohol one, but less so about food. Because it's clear that they serve food.
Yep. And I think that was the acquiesce of the zone administrator to recommend an ag tourism. So they could still use that commercial kitchen right now.
If you want that up, I think I can get it.
I'm gonna find it myself.
But Krista would need to make me a co-host of the meeting so that I can present. Okay, now.
I don't even know where it is.
Well, I'm kind of in a situation like Jill. There was like 100 pages to this thing, and then the letters. I've got papers everywhere, more than you guys. So.
Yeah,
I was wondering why that came down, but that's why she lost her. Something happened there.
What page is this?
So many pages.
I think I found something here on Exhibit J or L, excuse me.
Is that stated?
Yeah, up there it just says as an exception, special exemption does not allow. I think this is something right here, 1-2.
Yeah, that's what it was. Exhibit
Yeah.
what, Jay?
L, Exhibit L.
Exhibit L.
Top third of the page.
It's unfortunate.
I don't know if
that,
it's the same verbiage that we had.
Yeah, if we had the, that's where the in-person is better.
I'm sorry, but this email that you're referring to is the unidentified person that's complaining about this venue. And so I don't want to use that.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's the person who shall not be named.
I'm getting closer to getting this up. Krista, have you been able, have you made me a co?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I don't see.
Is Ann there? She maybe knows the format better.
Well, she's here trying to help me find it.
It's right there.
Right here.
So scroll down a little bit more. A little more. Okay, maybe it was at the top of this document.
Is it the background summary? The bullet points.
You could go to the letter that their attorney wrote.
Okay.
All the way down.
Is that in here?
Mhm.
Okay. The gremlins are really at it tonight. I don't know why, but I'm having a really hard time getting my computer to work.
So it's just a little bit up from this.
No, I mean, it's like it's frozen up. It's not working.
I can let it go. I think it's obvious that the intent of this group is that the conversation can continue and that they have been afforded some new possibilities with their ag tourism permit.
Right there.
Right here?
Oh, oh. I can't read it, so you move too fast. A little down.
Right here, this 1 and 2, whether any provision in the permit.
It was a specific statement that I made.
Oh,
I think you were on it. I just couldn't read that fast.
sorry. Here's the letter from Mr. Coyle.
Yeah, it's not there. Well, we had that posted up, and so that is a part of the record, and Crystal would like to amend that motion to deny with the affirmation of those 2 bullet points. Is that right, Crystal?
Yes.
Is there a second to that amendment?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Well, then we proceed to vote. I will call your name and you can say aye or nay. Tim?
I vote to not grant the appeal.
Yeah, that was the motion. So you're a no.
I'm a no.
You're a yes to the motion.
I'm a yes to the motion.
Right. I'm a yes to the motion too. Jill?
Yes to the motion.
Crystal?
Yeah, I'm a yes with that narrow definition of the motion.
Okay, the motion was made and seconded, and the motion passed 4-0. So we're done.
Thank you, Mark. Jim. Crystal.